Today we're going to be talking about MTHFR. Now, what is MTHFR? Most people know it as the mother gene, right? And you know what? It probably deserves that moniker because it can cause a lot of frustration with a lot of people. So let me talk all about MTHFR. Excuse me, again, ate something funny for breakfast. Let's talk about MTHFR. Let's talk about what it is, what it does, how we can test for it, and how we can intervene therapeutically. Excuse me. MTHFR is a gene that affects how our body uses folic acid. Now, folic acid is a vitamin. It's a B vitamin. Most of you are familiar with it. You know, whenever you're pregnant, you take a prenatal with extra folic acid in it, okay? Folic acid is very important for our nervous system. It's very important for our brain health. It's very important for a lot of things in our body. And in fact, why we take folic acid in a prenatal is because it helps build the nervous system of the child and prevents spina bifida. And spina bifida is when part of the nerves kind of break through part of the spine and cause a punch out through the back. It's a very serious condition. So even in utero, even in the womb, folic acid is helping the child's nervous system to develop. Okay, and so that's why it's so important, because it's really going to help us and our nervous system. And where I see it helps most people is through their mood and their behavior. That's where we get a lot of improvements when we start tweaking and treating MTHFR mutations. So let's walk through all this physiology and see where we can get from there. So again, my apologies for the phlegm. All right, how do we make brain chemicals? Okay, that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with the chemistry in our brain. So the chemicals in our brain that run the speed of our nervous system, things like serotonin, dopamine, and adrenaline. Serotonin makes us very calm, makes us relaxed. Dopamine and adrenaline make us very, they're accelerators. They make us focus. They give us motivation. So we need a balance of everything. We need some accelerators. We need some brakes. Just like when we're driving a car, we need accelerators and brakes to get the speed where we need to go safely. Okay? So let's walk through the biology of how our body produces these chemicals in the brain. Okay? So we start out always with combining an amino acid, which is a protein, along with a certain vitamin, and that certain vitamin is folic acid, okay? Now, there are other vitamins involved, there are other minerals involved. We're just kind of bring it down to the basic core. So if you want to make serotonin, that's a combination of amino acids, vitamins, and minerals that are included in our super serotonin supplement, and 5-MTHF. Now, 5-MTHF looks similar to MTHFR, doesn't it? Well, 5-MTHF is the activated form of folic acid. We're going to get to that in a minute. So, super serotonin plus 5-MTHF, and another word for 5-MTHF is methylfolate. So if you've heard of methylfolate, it's the exact same thing as 5-MTHF. That's just the acronym. You combine the proteins, some vitamins and minerals that are in our super serotonin supplement, mix it with 5-MTHF, you get serotonin, okay? Also, attention on the double, that is our supplement that helps support dopamine and adrenaline. There's different proteins and amino acids and vitamins and minerals in our attention on the double supplement that combines with methylfolate, 5-MTHF, to produce dopamine and adrenaline. So it's so important for us to have this activated form of folic acid to produce the chemicals in our brain that run things. So you combine proteins and some other vitamins and minerals with this activated folate. You combine amino acids, proteins, some vitamins and minerals with this activated folate. That's how we get the chemicals in our brain. And these are often deficient in our kids. So let's walk back to that folate again. So this is the pathway. This is the assembly line. Okay, our body starts with folic acid or with folate. Okay, folate and folic acid, very, very similar chemicals. Folic acid is synthesized and folate is natural, but they're very, very similar. They turn into folinic acid. Folinic acid goes through the MTHFR gene pathway to become the activated 5-MTHF methylfolate. So we've got to get from here down to here. Okay, and that requires the active use of this MTHFR gene. That's why this MTHFR gene is so important. It's almost the last gate. It's almost the last step to the finish line of making sure that our brain is working well. And people who have MTHFR problems tend to have a lot of emotional problems because you're not producing all of these chemicals in the brain. Okay, so serotonin, dopamine, and adrenaline, while they need proteins and other vitamins and minerals, they definitely need this methylfolate, and MTHFR has to be working to get that. All right, so I hope that makes sense. So let's why it's so important for us that MTHFR is working, because we need to produce all these chemicals, okay? So it's important to test your MTHFR levels to get an analysis of them and then to choose the right treatment for that, okay? Now, there are different treatments for that, and there's two places we can intervene, but it's a big picture. So let me start basic and then get a little bit more advanced. And for those of you typing in live questions, we will get to those as soon as I finish our topic. Excuse me. So where were we? Okay, so where do we intervene supplementally? Okay, where we want to intervene supplementally is either by giving folinic acid or by giving methylfolate, or a combination of the two. Okay, so you can give either of these. We'll talk in a minute about which one might be better for you or your child. And probably the best way to identify is trial and error. Many of you have probably tried supplements with methylfolate or methyl B12, and your child may have done very well or may have done poorly. So we're going to talk about both. You can get supplements of methylfolate, 5-MTHF. They usually come with B12. For instance, our chewable B-licious for MTHFR. This is a chewable tablet that includes methylfolate and methyl B12. I'd hold this up, but I doubt it'll come into focus, but you get the idea, okay? So you're getting methylfolate in substances like this, and then you can throw it on the floor. The other option you have is to supplement with folinic acid, okay? So folinic acid, here, this is our folinic acid powder. It's not 5-MTHF. It is the step before it. Sometimes this works better than the actual 5-MTHF, all right? Now, why? Okay, before we get into the why, I also wanted to show you our Power and Focus. So we have Power and Focus here, #1 bestseller, best thing we use for most of our patients. This has a combo, 80% folinic acid, 20% 5-MTHF. We put this combo of 80-20 ratio in here because it really seems to help those kids who do have the B vitamin sensitivities. So let's talk about that. Why do some kids do well with methylfolate and methyl B12 and other kids don't? Well, that has to do with the downstream effect, and the metaphor we're going to use is a toilet, okay? We all have toilets, okay? What do we do with toilets? We fill them with water so we can put something in there that we want to remove, and then we flush, all right? Our toilet has to have the right level of water in it. You want enough water in it so that it can collect what we don't want, and we also want it to flush, okay? Because if it doesn't flush, it overloads and there's more of a problem, okay? So let's talk about this flushing of the chemicals in our brain. The chemicals in our brain don't just stay there, they're constantly produced and they're constantly removed. That's what happens in our body. Now, the one that can cause the biggest problem is adrenaline, okay? Now, adrenaline is produced, let's go back to that slide, hold on. Adrenaline is produced here, okay? We take different proteins, where am I? We take different proteins, vitamins, and minerals, like in our Attention on the Double supplement, combine them with 5-MTHF, and you have adrenaline. Now, what if you have too much adrenaline? If you have too much adrenaline, you get into this fight or flight, you get hyperactive, you get insomniac, okay? Because adrenaline and all the other chemicals in the brain go through another process, another gene called COMT, an MAO. And that removes adrenaline from the body. This actually becomes organic acids. So if you've done an oat test, you would have a VMA and an HVA, a valine-mandelic acid, and a homovanillic acid result. That shows the adrenaline leaving the body through COMT and MAO. So these genes here are just as important as MTHFR. They just don't get all the press. They don't get all the publicity and marketing because these are slightly harder to treat until we came back with our anger management supplement. So this anger management supplement we just released last week, this includes a combination of different vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that will activate the COMT gene and the MAO gene to remove the adrenaline. So again, if you've got that toilet water getting too high, you need to flush it, that's why we use this. So it's a gentle balance of the two. It's a gentle balance of making sure you're producing the right brain chemicals, serotonin and dopamine, to get the brain functioning right. That improves behavior, that improves sleep, that improves language, huge amounts of language with the right balance of brain chemistry. So we boost those levels up, and we also want to make sure we remove them at the right speed, because if that adrenaline gets too high, you have all these behavioral problems, anger, aggression, hyperactivity, insomnia, all right? So it's a balance, all right? So how do we find out what to do? Okay, well, there's testing, and then there's trial and error treatments. We'll talk about the trial and error treatments, then we'll get into the testing, and then we'll do all of our questions and answers. So, I would suggest trial and error. Okay, trial and error. If your child has a lot of anger, a lot of fight or flight, if you think there's a lot of adrenaline in your child, sleep problems, anger, hyperactivity, the first thing I would do is try to flush that toilet. I would try our anger management supplement. Okay, this is a nice powder. It's got a little smoky flavor. You can mix it into drinks. You can mix it into food. This will reduce that adrenaline level, hopefully calm the child down. Okay, if that seems to work, then you can add on the different B vitamins, which will either be the folinic or that B-licious. Hold on, I dropped it on the floor. Let me go get it. Yep. All right. So it's going to be one or either of these. You don't need both. Okay. If you wanted both, you would use our Power and Focus that contains both. Okay. So that's if you feel like your child is hyper and very adrenaline, start by toning down the adrenaline and then add the B vitamins and see how they respond. Now, let's say your child is not that hyper, okay? Then you probably wouldn't run and grab this stuff. You don't need to reduce that adrenaline because there's no symptoms of adrenaline, hyperactivity, anger, sleep problems. Then you would just go with the B vitamins, trial and error, which one works better for you, okay? And again, I encourage trial and error because we also have a 30-day money-back guarantee, all right? Get them, try them, keep what works, return what doesn't work, okay? We have this 30-day money-back guarantee because I want you guys to try things and send back what doesn't work, okay? How many of you have like a closet full of supplements you used for a few days and then you're not using them anymore, okay? I hate that, you hate that. That's why we want to encourage you to try stuff and return what doesn't work. All right, so I think that kind of covers the trial and error, okay? If you get an angry kid, got a hyper kid, have a sleep problem kid, reduce the adrenaline, okay? And then add in the B vitamins. If you don't have if you don't have that hyperactivity, then just do with the B vitamins, okay? Quick question here. Jill says, what is in anger management? Well, I'll review it first quickly, but last week's Facebook Live reviewed it in detail, so I would go back to the Facebook Live a week ago. But what we have in here is a combination of vitamin B2, B6, and magnesium that help activate COMT. We have lithium orotate that helps activate MAO, and those both reduce adrenaline. And then we have a combination of glycine and cysteine. Now, glycine and cysteine are really cool because they are going to bind glutamate in the body. Glutamate is a very hyperactive speed chemical in the body, causes a lot of behavioral problems. We can take that glutamate out of the bloodstream, bind it with the cysteine and the glycine in the product, and it turns it into glutathione. It turns this chemical of massive hyperactivity in Tasmanian devil and turns it into the most powerful antioxidant in our body. So it's really cool how it does that. We also have some theanine, and that's going to block NMDA receptors. So it does there's four ways that it works, which is pretty cool. I really like it, and it's definitely very encouraging. All right, so quick question from Camille. Are they natural supplements? Everything we do is all natural. Okay, we have no pharmaceuticals in our clinic. We have no pharmaceuticals on our website. Everything from a supplement standpoint is natural. All right, so that's kind of your walkthrough of trial and error. Let's talk about testing. Okay, so the testing that we have new testing, and I want to talk about it. We're launching it today. Okay. The new testing we have is a small genetic test called a pharmacogenetic test. What a pharmacogenetic test is it analyzes certain genes, not a lot of genes, but very specific ones that help understand which medications your child may respond well to or respond very poorly to. Okay. Now that's important if you go on medications. Now, I've got an all-natural clinic. We don't go for medications and pharmaceuticals first, but if you do have them, you may want to make sure you're using the correct ones. And a pharmacogenetic test can help you identify which could be a better one versus a poor one for your child. Sorry about that. Just had a call from potential spam Russia. So we're just gonna decline that one. All right, so that's what happens when you do Facebook Lives on your phone. So let me show you the test that we have, and I'm going to walk through how you can use it. This is the lab itself. This is the lab. It's from a company called Tempus, and it is going to analyze these certain genes that help identify what medications will be good or bad for you. So when you get your report, this is the report that you're going to get. And again, I don't know if you can read everything here, but it's going to look at different genes that affect metabolism of pharmaceuticals. That also includes COMT and both MTHFRs. So you haven't done your MTHFR or COMT yet, this genetic test may be a good option for you because your health insurance may pay for all of it, okay? And that's one of the reasons we've teamed up with Tempus, because we might be able to help you guys really affordably with your insurance company. Here's more of what you get done, okay? So in addition to learning your MTHFR and COMT, and that can help guide you which of the B vitamins you want, we also have, this is going to walk you through the different pharmaceuticals that are good or bad for you, which include antidepressants. So if your child is considering an SSRI like Lexapro or Prozac, it'll tell you which ones are going to have a side effect and which ones might be totally fine. I just got the voicemail from the spam from Russia. I wonder what they're saying. Здравствуйте, товарищ, как дела? Мы в кино. All right, so what else does it include? Besides the different antidepressants, it'll tell you which ones may be better than others. It also talks about different NMDA antagonists. Someone asked about Namenda on a question there. This may tell you about that. And it also gets into different other different psych meds like risperidone. Many of your kids may be on risperidone. It also talks about different seizure meds. So if you're on seizure meds, those will tell you which ones may work better than others. So it's a real intriguing type of test if you're going down the road of pharmaceuticals or if you just want to know your MTHFR and COMT, okay? So let me review the process of it for you if you're interested in doing it. So again, we've teamed up with this genetic company, Tempus. We don't do the testing. It works with somebody else, works with another company. What you're going to do first, and this is all on our website, okay? You're going to screen to see how much this test may cost you through the lab. So they've got a web page which we have for you, and you go to that web page and you answer a few questions about finances, and it'll give you an answer of how much this test is going to cost you. Okay, with health insurance, even with Medicaid, it's normally between $0 and $100. Okay, and for many it's zero. So go to that web page, which we're going to get to you. Fill out the financial form, and then they'll give you an answer. This is the most your test will cost. All right, if that's a good cost for you, all right? If it's an affordable cost for you, if you want to do it, then on our website, spectrumawakening.com, you're going to purchase the lab interpretation. You purchase that lab interpretation, then we send you the test kit, you collect the sample, you send it to the lab, then we'll get the results and we'll give you your lab results, which are going to look exactly like this, and we're going to give you my written interpretation of those. So this is what the test kit looks like. And some good and bad with this test kit. Number one, it is a saliva kit. It's not blood. That's a good thing, okay? The other thing is it is a spit collection tube. So you have to be able to spit in this tube, all right? Easy for some kids, hard for others, all right? So you have to spit, 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 spit until you get up to this fill line, which is only 1 cc. It's only 1 milliliter. But that's still a decent amount of saliva, okay? It doesn't look like a lot. You got to collect this much here. It doesn't look like a lot, but it is a lot for those of you who've done these kind of tests. So you have to have a child who's going to be able to collect the saliva. Now, that being said, I told the company, I said, look, a cheek swab is the way to go with kids, especially kids on the spectrum. So a lot of you may be interested in this test kit, but a saliva collection may not be doable for your child. So if that is the case, if you would rather have a cheek swab, contact us. Contact us through social media and tell us, hey, I would do this test if it was a buccal swab, and we're going to give those numbers to the lab. We may say, hey, 10 people wanted to do this, or 10,000 people want to do this with a cheek swab. All right, so we want those numbers to tell the lab so they'll get the cheek swab for us. But if you want this test soon and your child can collect 1 cc of saliva, go to our website. It'll send you first to their financial application form. Get a price. If the price works for you, purchase the lab interpretation on our website, and then the ball is in motion. You're going to know what pharmaceuticals are going to have side effects for your child, and you're going to know MTHFR, and you're going to know COMT. So it's a pretty cool test, and we're glad we've been able to add this as well. All right, so let me put that away, and I think we've kind of covered everything in general. So let me just kind of go over it. Let me review. Oh, wait, I have research studies. Hold on. Let me see here. All right, first off, is this stuff really going to help? Well, based on some literature, here's a research study associating MTHFR with autism, which said that, again, I know it's blurry on the screen, but I'll read it to you. The 677 polymorphism is associated with increased risk of autism, and the A1298C mutation is increased risk of autism in Caucasians only. Correct. But still, if the mutation is there, it's causing some symptoms and we can treat it. We just have to figure out what balance of treatment, okay? We have to figure out if we have to remove the adrenaline first, then we have to figure out if it's folinic or 5-MTHF that's gonna work better for your child. Next, that COMT thing I talked about, what's that all about? Okay, so the COMT gene in autism is going to affect abnormal dopamine and the severity of autistic behaviors. People with certain COMT mutations have a low dopamine level. People with other COMT mutations have a high dopamine level. Again, because the COMT gene is removing the dopamine, it's removing the adrenaline. Dopamine and adrenaline are very similar chemicals. It's gonna remove both of them and affect behaviors. Trust me. All right, those other genes that are on the test that affect pharmaceuticals also affect other things such as your sleep. Okay, so here's a gene called CYP1A2, and this is one of the genes tested in that Tempest gene test. That affects the metabolism of melatonin and affects sleep disorders. So disappearing effectiveness of melatonin is associated with gene problems of this gene. So let me explain what that means. If your child has sleep problems and they just wake up through the night, they may be burning through their melatonin faster than average or slower than average. If you give melatonin, it helps them sleep, but you've been giving it for a few weeks or months and it doesn't work anymore. It's because of a gene problem here. This can tell you why. Next, we've got this another exact same research study about melatonin enzymes in autism, sleep onset delay, talking about sleep disorders in autism and the melatonin and that exact gene, CYP1A2. So these genes called CYP are genes of phase 1 detoxification, okay? And those types of genes not only affect pharmaceutical detoxification, but our own body's hormones and chemicals like melatonin affecting sleep disorders. Last research study, for those of you who give your children risperidone and had bad effects, it's this gene CYP2D6 that affects autism patients who do take risperidone, because you're going to get adverse drug reactions, which means if you're taking risperidone and your child doesn't do well with it, it might be because you've got this gene problem, and that's why the risperidone isn't working for your child. Again, I'm not a huge fan of risperidone, but you get the idea. These genes affect meds. These genes affect things that are in our body that we produce on our own. Serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline, melatonin, okay? They affect how caffeine affects our sleep. So it's really interesting type of genetic testing. Genetic testing you might be able to get at no cost, to do the testing, a small fee for our interpretation. So, for those of you who are interested, for those of you who your kids or even yourself, it's not just kids that can do this testing. If you're an adult and you want to get this testing done through our website, go for it, all right? Try the financial application program, for application. Again, it takes like 2 minutes. I did it myself. I did it myself and I got a price of $100 for the test with my insurance, okay? Many people are gonna be between 0 and 100. So go for that application. If it's something you want, you're gonna order the lab interpretation on our website. It's gonna go through. And all these instructions are on our website. When you order this, that it's called genetics, it's called Tempest. We've got links here on the Facebook.